we could move on maybe to, I know there's a lot around the Seder dinner itself. I know there are certain foods that are included and they have significance, so we could maybe touch on that.
On some of the foods that are included in the Seder meal. On the plate. Great. Great. So we have right behind us actually here a beautiful Seder plate, and it shows each of the symbols that one would traditionally find on the Seder plate. So we can go through what those are. So one of those over here says beitza, which is an egg. So you would traditionally have a roasted egg on the Seder plate, and an egg symbolizing the renewal of life, the cycle of the year, the beginning of spring, some of the symbols of the year that we see on the Seder plate. Then we have over here, it says karpas. Karpas are the greens. So this is the greens of the earth. We often have parsley, which is delicious. And you should know there's actually other options than parsley that one could have for their karpas, the greens of the earth representing spring. So you could have celery, you could have potatoes. It's actually something that's growing straight out of the earth. And I know I don't like parsley, so if you're a person like me, then having some of those other options can be nice, and they're kind of hearty. So you can get a little appetite in as the Seder is progressing. So that's the karpas, the greens of the earth. Then we have sometimes something called chazeret, which would often be, some people will have a leaf of romaine lettuce or some other sort of bitter green, which is there. We don't consume it necessarily during the Seder, but it's one of the symbols that you'll find on the plate. Over here, this says charoset. Charoset is the mixture often of nuts and fruits, which represents the mortar of the bricks which the Hebrew slaves built. So it looks like the literal mortar. And in different communities with different customs, there's different ingredients that go into it. In Eastern European communities, often apples and walnuts. In Sephardic or Spanish Mediterranean, North African communities, dates, bananas, honey, but something that looks sticky and brown to represent the mortar. Over here is the symbol zro'ah, which is the shank bone. So here you would have a roasted shank bone on the Seder plate, representing the lamb that was used to mark the doorposts of the homes that helped the angel of death to skip over the homes of the Israelites, and also the sacrifice that would have been offered in the temple at the time of Passover. So people will have a lamb bone. And then in the middle here says maror, which is a bitter herb. So often horseradish, or something that's very strong and representing the bitterness of slavery, so that we wouldn't forget in our own lives what it was to feel that bitterness and what it is for others who are enslaved and captured in our own world to feel the bitterness of not being free. And those are the traditional symbols on the Seder plate.
And are they, you mentioned one was not necessarily eaten, so is it customary to have a taste of each, or not necessarily?
Not necessarily. Some of the items on the Seder plate we do ultimately consume, like the karpas, the greens, or the charoset, that mixture of nuts and fruits. So those, the maror, the bitter herb, is consumed, but not everything is consumed. We don't eat the egg, we don't eat the shank bone, so some of them are just symbols.
Okay, but you do, in the Haggadah, kind of goes through and talks about the
Exactly. The Haggadah will go through and talk about what the different symbols are and emphasize their meaning and what we can learn from them. So some of them are there really to help us learn, and others to help us learn and eat.
All right.